In urban neighborhoods, green space is severely limited. Yards are cramped and crowded, and there isn't much room for anything other than residential housing. So how can we develop the small outdoor area we have? People in cities need to be more creative in designing ways to utilize and maximize the space they have. Today, I'm going to show you how we designed and built a 10-foot long garden box to serve as our own mini urban farm. Our project starts at Home Depot. Oh, this is Ollie. He designed the raised garden bed. You may have seen him previously in my modern shoe rack video, Bussin' Down. Today, he'll be directing construction of this build. I guess we'll go by Tall Guy's DIY, just for this project. We kicked it off by measuring and cutting the pressure-treated 2x4s down to sizes for the base frame. Teaming up for this process made things go much quicker. We were reusing some 2x4s from my outdoor porch sectional project, but to get the right lengths, we had to Frankenstein some pieces together. To do this, we used pocket holes, joining the butt ends of the boards together, resulting in the 10-foot lengths we needed. The frames have intermediate cross members. Ollie cut these to length, so we had all the pieces of the frame ready to be assembled. We pre-drilled every spot where we would attach the intermediates. This will help keep your screws in line and will result in better connections. Corded drills work great for pre-drilling. If you don't have one, you can use a normal cordless drill and that will work just fine. We used 3-inch deck screws, 2 per connection. The bottom base frame only needed 2 intermediate braces. However, the top frame we used 4 braces as it will be holding the bulk of the weight from the soil. We stapled chicken wire down to the top frame. This, paired with the landscape fabric, will hold the soil in the raised bed. Use plenty of staples to ensure proper strength of connection. Moving outside, we flip the top frame over, chicken wire facing down, and attach the legs at each brace point. Ollie went through pre-drilling and I followed driving the screws in. 2 legs were used at each corner for added structural strength. Again, we used 3-inch deck screws for all these connections. Then, we flipped the top frame back over and each leg slid within the inside of the bottom frame. To make each leg flush, we used 4-inch long cutouts to fill the gaps at each leg. There were 4 locations which needed 2 4-inch spacers. This has to do with the cladding design, which I will get into later. Pre-drill all connection points and then drive screws to connect the legs to the bottom base frame, as well as the 4-inch spacers to the legs. To connect the posts that will retain all the dirt in the actual raised bed, we used pocket hole connections to secure to the top of the frame. Only 4 of these posts will be needed for the frame. Each corner was designed a different way. We'll revisit this shortly. For now, attach these 4 posts along the edge of the top frame. Next, I cut 6 posts to length. Why these are different than the ones just installed is because these are going to support the enclosed protection. I'll use the table saw to cut out a 3/4 by 3/4 inch post 8 inches up. It's a complex design, more geared toward the final product aesthetics. Using the 2x4s uncut at these 6 post locations would have worked too. To connect these posts to the frame, we again used pocket holes. 1 pocket hole on each of the narrow faces worked fine. The posts had enough strength to hold back the soil and support the top enclosure. We used 1x4 inch cedar boards to clad the exterior of the garden box. We cut lengths of 6 feet and 4 feet in lengths of 5'1/4" and 3'1/4" to span the length of the box. The sides were cut to 2 foot and 1 foot 10.5" lengths. The reason for the difference in lengths was so that we could pattern the cladding of the edges, alternating the lengths to fit more cleanly. This gives the box a more modern look. At first, I used 1.5" 18-gauge brad nails to secure the cedar boards to the side of the frame, but we realized these weren't going to be strong enough to hold the weight of the soil, so we used 1.5" nails at each board to increase the strength. To save on costs, we only used cedar cladding on the front and the two ends of the box. The backside is cladded with 1x4" select lumber, a much cheaper alternative. I installed landscape fabric within the box, as this will be what holds the soil up in the upper tier. It is a permeable material, so water will be able to filter out of the raised bed. I used staples to secure it to the sides of the box, and I overlapped each side to ensure the entire inside of the box was covered with it. I just trimmed off the excess when I was done. We used miter cuts on the boards to join the top frame at all the corners. To make the cutouts around the posts, I used my jigsaw. This top frame is secured to the box with brad nails. Ollie cut specified lengths to clad each of the protruding posts. He ran the chicken wire around the box through the inside of this cladding. These were extra steps taken to help improve the overall look of the garden box. This step can be skipped and it will be just as functional. Be sure to leave the front side open, as this is where the access doors are going to go. We built the top of the enclosure using the same technique we did for the frame around the top of the box. Miter cuts at the corners give the enclosure a better look. Once all the pieces were cut and we did a dry fit, we ran chicken wire over the top of the enclosure and trimmed the excess. Using the stapler, Ollie secured it to the top of the posts. Then we were able to install the top frame over the chicken wire, completing the fixed enclosure. On the front side, we made 2 access panels that were attached to the enclosure with hinges. This will allow us to access the plants and keep all unwarranted wildlife out. Using matching handles adds a nice functional flair to the front of the box. Access panels now complete. To fill this behemoth garden box, we used 20 bags of 1.75 cubic yard Scott's topsoil. And once we had the 35 cubic yards of topsoil, we were ready to fill it up. Our main drive to build this garden bed was to grow vegetables within it. I believe it is important to increase access to locally grown food. People need to be reintroduced to the many aspects of growing food that we have lost as a culture. So how do we regain that connection with locally grown food in a crowded city? The simple answer for us was to grow our own. The core of what we will grow will be food we regularly consume: lettuce, spinach, and a couple other herbs. I hope you enjoyed this build, and it motivates you to think about growing your own produce in a garden bed like this one. Follow me on Instagram to see the progression of our crops. Until next time, Tall Guys out.